For nearly 2 decades, San Diego Writers Inc. has aimed to be a literary hub, now both online as well as in person. They offer single and multi-session classes in a variety of writing genres, reading critiques, drop-in writing sessions, year-long certificate programs, one of which Marnie teaches and I have taken, and it's wonderful. Just a little thing there. And they curate a quarterly show in their space at Liberty Station. They also host a variety of other programs, so please check out their website. We're going to put that link in the comments so I don't butcher it. Save the date for August 13th through the 15th for the grand reopening of the Writers Inc. space, which will include an art reception, free in-person writing sessions, readings, and a local author book fair, which I'm super excited about, and that is sandiegowriters.org. So we'll put that link in the comments. And Marnie?
And now, this is our last event of the day, and we really wanted it to be something that drew the community
Special.
together. So grab a pen and paper or grab your computer because the San Diego Writers Inc. PromptFest is just about to start. We are so happy to welcome editor extraordinaire. I will put in a plug for Miss Tracy J. Jones. She's a wonderful editor if you're looking for an editor. And author Rich Farrell. His new book is wonderful. They're also The Falling Woman, which you can see on our reading list. They're also two very popular teachers at San Diego Writers Inc. And they're about to lead our community prompt party. It will be full of entertaining and inspiring prompts to spark your creativity. So we hope that you can join us.
We just need some music because I think we should all be dancing at this point. I don't know about you, but there's music in my head.
Yes. Chocolate and wine as well.
Yes, chocolate, wine, and music. Well, there'll be a dance party later. I'll send you all the link. Okay. And now I would like to introduce Richard Farrell, who is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and the MFA in Writing program at Vermont College of Fine Arts. His work, including fiction, memoir, essays, interviews, and book reviews, has appeared in The Forge, Potomac Review, Hunger Mountain, New Plains Review, and elsewhere. He teaches creative writing at Grossmont College and at San Diego Writers Inc. His debut novel, The Falling Woman, was published by Algonquin Books in June 2020. Congratulations, Rich.
Worth a read, absolutely.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, we see you and we hear you.
Can you hear me?
Excellent.
I'm in the middle of an East Coast thunderstorm back in Massachusetts, so I chose to sit by the window, so maybe there's some lightning for those people who are
sound
missing
effects.
Dramatic
weather.
Yeah.
Was looking out. I was like, how does he have night sky out of his window? He's from San Diego, and I thought, it's really pretty, by the way. I hope we do have lightning.
He's in Massachusetts, and it literally is it's kind of past, I think, now, but there was a pretty good thunderstorm earlier, so we'll see.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me.
Ambient noise.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Next, we'd like to bring on Tracy J. Jones. Tracy J. Jones is a professional content writer, editor, and writing coach. She co-runs the San Diego Memoir Showcase and co-edits the Showcase anthology, Shaking the Tree, Brazen Short Memoir. Tracy runs several reading critiques groups, teaches at San Diego Writers Inc., and hosts the Writers Festival / Warwick's Book Club. She can be reached at tjjones1@gmail.com, and we'll put that in the chat for you. Thank you guys so much, and I'm going to get ready to turn it over to you.
All right, have fun. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Marnie and Jennifer. Thank you to everyone that's still watching with us. Welcome to PromptFest. Rich and I are so excited to have this time with you, the San Diego Writers Festival community. We'd like to thank San Diego Writers Inc. for sponsoring this PromptFest. Please check out their website, sandiegowriters.org, to see the amazing classes and programs they have for writers of all genres and experience levels. I'd like to welcome and thank our Zoom audience who get to participate and share their writing today. And Rich and I want to give a shout out to those watching on Facebook Live. We hope you'll join us for our fun free writing prompts. And I'm going to let Rich share a little bit about our intentions for this session.
So when Tracy and I talked about doing the writing PromptFest, the PromptFest, we compare it to Lollapalooza or Coachella or any of the other great fests that go on in the music world. But really what we talked about was getting together and having you all have an opportunity to do some writing. And we hope that you'll do some sharing. We know it's an awkward environment in Zoom to have to, you know, share your work or share the experience of writing, but we think it can be an opportunity to build a little bit of an online community. So we will give you some prompts. And Tracy, if I'm stepping on your toes, you can just jump in and tell me to stop. Um, and we'll give you a series of prompts, and then we will each kind of explain the methodology or the thought process or what we hope you will get out of the writing prompt, and then you're free to write. We're going to give you a few minutes to actually do some free writing. Tracy will explain the rules of what that means, and then we're going to come back together. We're going to invite you as much as we can, the time we have, to share your experience of the writing, maybe to offer the words you wrote in this time. I know it can be intimidating, but we're all getting used to Zoom, so hopefully you'll be able to do that. But the idea is just to get the pen moving, to get kind of end of a long day, get some words on the page and see what you can come up with. These are all fun prompts that Tracy and I talked a lot about. Some of the ones we really love. So we hope you enjoy them and will be willing to share with us. So Tracy, I'll kick it back to you.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go some of the ground rules for today. I'm going to share the PromptFest best practices that Rich and I talked about. Okay, this is the time to put your inner critic on mute or send them away to bother somebody else so you can write freely with no judgments. Once you start writing, keep writing. Don't edit, don't strike out words, just keep the pen moving and your fingertips typing. Permit yourself to write without the pressure of being perfect. Embrace writing in this moment and just see where the prompts take you. Our goal today is just to have fun, get words on the page. Each prompt will have you writing for 5 minutes, and then we'll come together as a group. We'll be asking our Zoom participants to share pieces of what they wrote today. There will be no comments, just clapping and support for everyone that shares and the bravery to do that. So Rich and I are so glad that you're here with us. You've been inspired by writers all day, so let's take that energy into your writing. Be ready to pour, and use the prompts as inspiration and follow the muse wherever she takes you. Rich is gonna now set up our first prompt.
I was listening to a podcast this week on the plane out to Massachusetts with Anne Lamont with Tim Ferriss, and she's great. And the podcast is wonderful. I really highly recommend it. And I was looking at some quotes I took on the plane of hers, and one of the quotes she said is, "Don't redecorate the abyss." So as a sort of starting point, I love that. Don't redecorate the abyss. So in other words, whatever you do, it's okay. Just put it on the page and share it with us. So the first prompt that I wanted to share with you is based on an anaphora structure, which is a rhetorical structure of repetition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a part of a line, a part of a prompt, some words to work with, and whenever you reach a point, ideally at the end of each sentence, but it might be more often, it might be less often. Whenever you reach a point where you're not sure what to say, you're going to repeat this phrase. And you're just going to write off of this phrase for the 5 minutes, right? So it might be every sentence. It might be more than once in a sentence. You might have 2 sentences and then come back to it for the 3rd sentence. But the idea is the repetition, okay? This works for nonfiction writers as well as for fiction writers. So all you have to do is follow the phrase, right? So I'm going to give you the phrase in a second, and then you just let it flow. So when I do this for my fiction writers, I say, imagine yourself in the skin of your character, and allow this sort of be a meditative exercise for the character in your story. If you're a nonfiction writer, just go with it. It's actually, it works either way. Okay, so I'm just trying to get you set up for this so you know where to go. The phrase I want you to repeat as much as you can, the more you repeat it, the more powerful this becomes, is the phrase, I remember. And so you just start with the words, I remember, and then you just kind of go with it. And when you get to the end of that first sentence, you come back and repeat, I remember, and just kind of let it flow. All right. So just repeat, I remember. In a 5-minute exercise, you might repeat the words, I remember 6 or 7 or 8 times. It's fine. Okay. So the phrase is, I remember. Just come back to that phrase and see what comes up with that. Have fun.
You have 1 minute to go. So wrap up or finish your last I remembers. Okay, Chloe, I think it's time for us to join the group back again. How was that for everyone? All right. Anyone gonna raise their hand first to share? Who wants to read a couple of their I remembers? We'd love to hear them. If not, I'm gonna call on you, so just look out. Oh, I get it. I see there's one. Anna, please unmute yourself and share some of your I remembers.
Hi, thank you. Um, this was fun. I remember nothing. I open my eyes slowly and gaze at the cloudless blue sky. I feel wet sand under my body, and I can hear the sound of waves gently lapping the shores. I remember nothing. Who am I? Why am I here? Seagulls take to the sky, and I watch them for a moment. I wish for memories to race in my mind, like the gulls race in the air. I remember nothing.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. How did it feel to do the repetition of the I remember? Anna, did it help prompt you? How did it feel to keep going back to I remember?
It was fun. It was fun. Usually we are told not to repeat words and phrases, but this was a really fun prompt.
One of the things that repetition does is it builds meaning, and if you think about repeating a phrase, and you actually took it a step further, right? By going, I remember nothing, which, whoa, what's that? It was kind of cool, but it builds meaning. And so there's a curiosity for, at least for me as a reader, to understand. And the more you repeat, the more that becomes a part of the structure of the story or the structure of the piece. That was great. Thank you.
Rich, do you want to pick our next volunteer for us?
I'm going to wait for a hand. I see a hand. Kimberly, go ahead. Thank you. I'm looking for hands, but I'll pick too. But go ahead, Kimberly.
But I just want to comment on Anna's story. I really want to hear why she didn't remember. I want to hear the rest of it, so we don't get to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah.
We just have to sometime connect with her in the future. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm okay. All right, here's mine. I remember the joy and excitement and fear that filled me when I first moved into my foster home at age 16. I remember a whole new, amazing universe of possibility opening up to me. I remember the thrilling sense of potential that lay before me as I first began to experience what it was like to have another person care about me. I remember being impatient as I struggled to make the major changes in my life. I remember all the wonderful food I had to eat in my new home as I left behind forever the fear of dying of starvation.
That was wonderful. Seriously.
Rich had said that the genius of this prompt is it feels like poetry without purposefully being poetic. So that was a great example of that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, Kimberly.
Very good.
What it's doing is it's pushing us as readers, right? And so I'm going to add one little tweak to this, just not for you, Kimberly, but for everyone. So when you build a structure like this, you can also twist it. So in other words, you can do 5 or 6 of these I remember lines, and then the 7th line could be I don't remember, and then so there's this sort of inherent structure that you can play with, just as for going forward in the future. That was great, Kim. I love that. I was really curious about that. Thank you.
I saw that Jean raised her hand, and then maybe we could go to Susan after that. So Jean, why don't you unmute and read your I remembers?
I think I'm unmuted.
You're good.
I remember when I was their age. I was so excited in my new job. And after a few months, I was invited to the company's Women in Leadership program. There were 45 of us in a U-shaped circle of desks. I remember thinking how glad I was that I had 5 different skirted suits, so each day could be different. We were all mid-20s to early 30s. There were 2 facilitators, and on the last day, I organized the students into getting them a dozen roses as a thank you. They were both in HR or personnel, as it was known then. That was 25 years ago, and now I'm back as a speaker. So she asked me to speak. I don't want to disappoint them, the shiny faces, the hopeful faces, oh yeah, they haven't met me yet. Do I tell them what they want to hear? What would I have wanted to hear? Or do I tell them the truth? You suck it up. As a liberated woman of 2021, you get to organize the team building potluck. That's your leadership opportunity. The truth is nothing's changed, but legislation and political correctness requires that they, men and women, Black and white, everybody, are better at being nuanced about sexism and racism and all the other isms. It's just not a good fit. She'll be happier somewhere else. I'm embarrassed, but I understand. She got to be a department head by learning the rules and playing the game. Why is it so much more painful being betrayed by someone calling herself my sister? I know what I'm supposed to do. Deep breath. The only thing to remember is now I've got to talk. So I open my mouth and I lie.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jean. Rich, do you want to call on Susan?
Sure. Susan, go ahead.
I remember the last time I saw you. You were standing in the doorway of my apartment on Cape May. I remember I didn't want you to go, but you already had your hand on the doorknob. I remember how you twisted it and then stopped. You looked back and my heart leapt in anticipation. I remember how you said, I didn't mean for this to happen. I remember how I was already missing you, excuse me, and you weren't even gone.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
So just to point this out, like there's all these variations of how people are using it, right? Which is the fun part, because creative writers never follow the rules; they do it their own way. But that's part of the fun, is to see how other people manipulate the Anaphora structure into their stuff. So that was great. So the combination of these different readings is wonderful. That was great, Susan. I loved it. Thank you.
I saw Kiyomi with her hand up. Do you want to unmute for us? We can share a couple more before we go on to the next prompt.
Yes. Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, I remember you told me you had known me before we met. I remember that afternoon. After my yoga class, I visited your house. I sensed somehow you had known me. I remember that telepathy you sent to me. I remember you had met me in your dream long before I decided to come to see you. I remember you said you'd forever recognize me by the Fatima necklace I wore that day to meet you at the door. I will remember you forever in the next life.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Kiyomi.
Thank you. Yeah, that was great.
That was great. Rich, you want to pick somebody?
I see Barbara waving. Please, Barbara, come on in. Barbara Allen, I saw first wave. So I know there's a few Barbaras here. Sorry. And one of them is Barbara, who is my student. But Barbara Allen, please come on in, and then we have time.
Okay. I remember, can you hear me? Okay. I remember being back in Connecticut with my parents, Jimmy and Kathleen. There was a stone quarry that my dad, Jimmy, took me to. I remember it wasn't far from my grandmother's cottage where we were staying. We walked over these large rocks, get down to the bottom. Dad dove into this water, and I remember being scared that he'd get hurt. But then he suddenly popped up halfway across. I remember he seemed to be bobbing in the water like a cork from one of his empty wine bottles, like so many empty ones that littered the floor. I was scared and worried because I remembered how he got when he drank too much wine. I started to cry standing there in my pink floral two-piece bathing suit, the one I remember Mom had bought for me for the trip.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Thanks so much for sharing. We've got time for a couple of more. Why don't, Laura, I've noticed your hand up for a while there, so why don't we unmute Laura?
I remember the shade of our old oak trees in the middle of a hot, humid jungle heat in Mississippi. I remember my Grammy's iced tea sliding down my throat, biting into the sour lemon slices, their skin bitter and sharp. I remember my brothers swinging from the rope swing from the branches of that oldest oak. They jump off that swing, land in the soft earth and grass as they hooped and hollered. I remember arguing with them when they landed too close for comfort, their legs and arms barely missing me as I laid across the grass with my book and my glass of tea toppling over by their thrashing legs.
I'm just going to say this. We have one more reader we're going to call on. And don't forget, there's more prompts coming. So there's more people who will get to read. So don't worry. What's wonderful about this is it's the variations that are so easy to get to. But what the structure does is it gives you something to go back to. It gives you this return, this recursive, almost rhythmic return. So these have all been different, but all been wonderful. Jennifer Karp, we're going to call on you to unmute yourself for the last I Remember read. And thank you all for participating so far and sharing, but we'll go to Jennifer for the last one.
Okay. I'm from New England, so my writing's a little more blunt than normal people.
You mean you get to swear?
Yep.
We encourage that.
I remember, actually, I don't remember anything. You see, I just woke up. When I say just woke up, I mean, I dragged myself out of bed and have not even had coffee. And all the time I spent writing this, I could be drinking that heavy brew and alerting my mind to the consciousness it is fighting. When I say fighting, I mean, I cannot remember my dreams one bit and wish I could, because I have a suspicion that it was one of those dreams that could change the world, or at least was amusing with flying daffodils and shopping naked at the Piggly Wiggly. When I say Piggly Wiggly, I not only mean the supermarket, the actual pigs on our farm long ago when I was a child and had to shovel chicken shit and prayed for a way to escape to the city. I remember that for sure.
Great. That wasn't so cursed. You didn't curse nearly enough for a New Englander. That was great. That was wonderful. Thank you. And thank you all for participating. Just real quick, again, play with this kind of structure. Use it for any kind of emotion value system that your characters, you are trying to process. It really is a liberating exercise. You can do it for a few pages. You can do it. People have done whole books this way. So just, and the last thing I'll say is notice this repetition as you read. Right? Anna said the first thing she said was, "You're told not to repeat." I think that's a terrible, terrible thing we tell writers. Repetition is the key to pattern making in writing. There's so much repetition. It's just really artfully done by a lot of good writers. So look for it as you read and play with this as you write. Thank you all.
Thank you guys so much. I'm so glad that people wanted to share. Okay, I'm going to set up the second prompt. This prompt is for everyone ever told a chapter, scene, or piece of dialogue needs more show versus tell. It's one of the most common comments in every reading critique group I've ever been in and in the books that I edit. There are many ways to bring more show to your writing, but using body sensations to express emotions is one of the easiest and most effective way to engage your readers. Readers want to be zipped up into you or your character's body, not just to see your world, but to experience it and feel it. You can use body language to add depth to your dialogue. You can use it to show how your character's emotions affect their actions. If you allow yourself to feel the emotions and how your body responds as you write, the reader will feel it when they read it on the page. So I'm going to go over this second prompt. There's two ways to do it, using body sensations to show emotions. The first way is think of an emotional pivotal moment in your life or your character's life and try using at least 3 body sensations to express emotion in your scene. Or if you want to tackle one sense at a time, you could do it by this way: smell. With one whiff of that smell, I was back. Or touch, as he touched the small of her back. Sight, squinting in the sunlight towards the horizon, they couldn't believe. Hearing, as I ran towards the room, all I could hear. And then taste. I pushed the plate away, overcome with. No right or wrong way to do it. We're going to give you 5 minutes right now, and then we'll come back together as a group. One more minute. Okay, if Chloe could bring us all back together. Hello, everyone, as we finish up our last couple of sentences. Okay, who would like to share a little bit about their body sensations and emotions? I see Phyllis just raised her hand. You wouldn't mind unmuting, Phyllis?
Sorry, deep in thought. He saw it at exactly the same moment that I did. We had trudged uphill to the cross at Mount Soledad, fanning our faces. He sang to me, "You smell like the boys' locker room." And I batted his ears, of course, and then we turned because two female runners had stopped dead in their tracks. One was whimpering as her friend grabbed her hand and pulled her back down the stairs. The body was a faint outline of glowing green flesh on the cross, not human, pulsing and cinematic in its unrealness. My brother said, "Cool." He reached out just before the flash engulfed his body.
Very, very visual. I could see all that. That was awesome. Thank you so much. Rich, do you want to call on somebody?
Ooh, can you hear the thunder? That's very visual, or very, very visceral too. I wanted to say one thing about Phyllis's piece, and it's a small reminder. We forget the importance of like the colors and like just that little subtle thing, the modifiers that are just simple, really make an impact on the reader. So well done. Do I want to call on and so I want to see if anyone has a hand up or a. I don't see.
Looks
anyone.
like Sue. Is that Sue up there with her hand?
Was that a hand? Okay, good. Sue, please jump in.
Unmute, Sue. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. And on the last one, I did talk about storms. So now I realize why that came to mind. I pushed my nose into a live peony and am intoxicated by the fragrance. The warmth of the sunlight on my back reassures me that all is well. I am at ease. The taste of fresh picked blackberries over homemade vanilla ice cream calls out to me over the years. The sweet of the juicy fruit mixed with its tart vanilla ice cream, creamy, smooth, and cold on my tongue. A different and pleasurable sweetness. The view of far-off mountains on a stormy day, storms again, draws me onto a path I believe will take me there, at least take me closer, as if nearing the distant mountains will fulfill a desire, ...
Thank you, Sue. That was
great. I want some ice cream.
I am so wanting. I don't even like vanilla, and I was like, "Oh, I want some vanilla ice cream." You can see that Laura raised her hand. So if anyone, we're going to go to Laura next. But if you guys want to put your hand gesture under the reactions, we'll make sure not to miss you. But we'll go to Laura and unmute there, and yeah, just put the hand icon so we'll make sure that we don't miss you guys.
Okay, I'll try to read my handwriting here. What was this? Sweat began to trickle down my sides. My breathing was tight, and I realized I was holding my breath. I'm sweating? Not now. I had dreamed of this moment, and here it was, finally, and I was slick and sticky. He leaned into me and placed a tender kiss on my lips. Sensations exploded in my body. I could taste the wintergreen gum left on those lips. The softness of that kiss hardened, and I strained to match his eagerness with my own.
Laura went there. I like that. I haven't seen this side of Laura. I liked her. That was a really good one. Anyone else want to raise their hand? I feel like I saw Phyllis is up for a sec. Oh no, we've got someone new. Valerie.
Yeah.
Please unmute.
Got it. Okay. I promised to help Grandma with the chicken. Barbara cut its neck and dipped it in a vat of hot water. I could smell the wet feathers and the steam curling off the water, and my stomach lurched, but I didn't want to leave. I kept my breath shallow and tight in my mouth so that it wouldn't get into my nose. Here, Barbara said as she handed me the glopping bird, we'll put it on this board and pluck it. I grabbed at the wet straw feathers and pulled them, popping them loose in rows and patches. The smell reached out and grabbed my throat, and I threw up.
We went from
That's
ice
great.
cream to dead
That's
chicken.
great.
It was great. Anna has her hand up, I'm told. I missed Anna. Do you want to unmute and read for us?
Sure.
Oh, there you are, Anna.
Hi. I dropped the chopped onions into my pan, and the smell transported me to the street vendors I frequented during my younger days. On the crowded roads, horns blaring from slow moving traffic, sweaty bodies crushed together in a tiny corner, I had loved to eat the spicy finger food. The red onions sizzled and took on a brown tinge in the hot oil as I stirred them. Street vendors. That is where I met Ro. His dark curls fell unevenly on his forehead as he bit into the cutlets.
I think the fun thing that's beautiful, the fun thing about this prompt too is that it kind of slows you down a little bit to take that moment to like let us into those senses. And just by, it's not a lot, but you just stay with that moment and it just seems to linger a little bit more with me when I read something that uses body sensations. Do we have anyone else? We've got a couple more minutes to share if we want to. That looks like, Barbara hasn't. Why don't we start with Barbara?
Okay. It was years before the smell of clean laundry did not put me back into our bedroom on the day the two uniformed men came to visit Arthur. Combined with the smells of early summer floating in through the window, cut grass, flowers in the flower boxes all up and down the street. I was folding Arthur's shirts. We were newly enough married that it still seemed marvelous to me that I had a man's warm, clean shirts to fold. When I heard a businesslike knock on the door, I heard Arthur cross from his chair to open it, and some conversation. He must have invited them in because I heard one of the men say suddenly, "Is your wife at home?" And I heard Arthur say, "No, she's visiting her mother today." And I froze where I stood because I was very much there.
Wow. Like a whole scene. She got us all the way to a cliffhanger at the end.
It looks like we've got Jennifer and Kiyomi, and I think those will probably be the two that we have time for. We'll check it right now, but yeah, Jennifer, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, okay. Fucking Somerville circa 1975, visiting the city with Dad. The acrid yellow piss stench of the human condition permeating my nose like a twisted lullaby that would certainly keep me from daydreaming. I heard the smell of the bus. You knew that shit was coming. You could smell the black exhaust fill the air as it clamored to a stop. Dad and I entered that dinosaur, and into its gut we disappeared, the pungent piss and vinegar rising all around us.
Very evocative of smells. Really, really well done. All of these guys have been so great. Kiyomi, do you want to unmute?
Yes. In the summer, my favorite thing at the ocean was to float myself. In the cradle of the ocean, I heard my breath, in and out, breathing. The sounds of the world became obscure and felt distant. Bright orange light filled my closed eyes. The warmth of water enveloped my body, holding to float. I was drifted into the sea. Somewhat, my heart was a little quivering. At night, another
Thank you. Sorry, we had a little trouble with the audio, but thank you so much. And I also want to thank Valerie for her dog, because it doesn't feel like a Zoom meeting unless there's a child pop up or a pet in the thing. So thank you for making it an official Zoom meeting to have a pet. Rich, do you want to go ahead and start the third prompt? This one is so fun. I can't wait for you to tell them about it. Oh, I think you're muted, Rich.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page because we are watching a clock here. So we want to do the dialogue prompt for the third one, right, Tracy?
Yes. Yeah, we're still good.
Okay, we're still good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not good. I'm all screwed up because I'm on the East Coast. I'm all screwed with time. So okay. So this is a prompt. It's a little bit more constrained than the ones we've just done, and hopefully it's a little bit more fun. Not more fun than what we just did, but more fun in the sense of I want you to kind of get a little bit of conflict going here. Okay. So fun in the sense of like we can let the dogs out now and have a little bit of like fun. Okay. So we don't have to be in this. We can also be in the space of seriousness in literature, but we can also just have some fun with this one. So that's the sort of background. So it's the basic setup is you have two characters in a place that they can't leave. Okay, so this is going to be a dialogue prompt. So there's going to be some rules for this, but I want you to think about having two characters and they're stuck in a confined space. I usually say the simplest one is a car. It can be a locked room, somewhere where these two characters are stuck together. An elevator sometimes happens and they cannot leave. So no matter what happens, the first rule of this prompt is they can't go anywhere. Okay. The second part of this prompt is the character A, your first character, wants something. You can decide what they want, but character B does not want that. So in other words, in simple terms, they're arguing over something, right? This is why it's kind of fun. So you start the prompt with character A. We're going to put the slide up in a second so you can see all this. Asking a question or making a request about the specific desire, right? I want to go to McDonald's for dinner. And of course, that means character B says, no, we're not going to McDonald's for dinner, right? So it's this sort of back and forth in dialogue, right? But the constraint of this prompt is that character B does not just say, no, we're not going to McDonald's, right? What character B does is character B has choices. One choice is they repeat the question. So the question was, can we go to McDonald's for lunch? Character A says, can we go to McDonald's for lunch? Character B then says, can we go to McDonald's for lunch? Question mark, repetition. Or character B answers with silence, or character B changes the subject. Okay, and these will be clearer in a second. So what you're doing is you're in putting in conflict without actually having the characters yell at each other, right? So you're going to continue this way with this repetition of questions and not answering, or questions and repeating, or questions in silence, so that you're going to build tension into the dialogue without anyone raising their voice. Okay, so the slide will help make this make sense. So two characters are talking to each other, and they're not really answering each other's questions. That's the whole goal of this. And if you can trust it, if you just go with it, and don't think about it, just go with the prompt, it really makes kind of fun, fascinating scenes. So it might help if we can pull the slide up. I can talk through the slide for a second, so you see what I'm saying. So character A wants something, character B does not want. Character A asks a question of B about the specific desire. Character B has choices. The choices the character B can respond to are they can repeat the question, they can answer with silence, or they can change the subject. So go this way with as many lines of dialogue as you can. Do not fill in no flashbacks or backstory, no polite speeches, no thank yous and I'm sorries and please and thank you. They can just be direct, right? And then the final part of this prompt, I know it's a lot. I'm really being way geeky with this prompt. But the final line of dialogue, and it doesn't matter which character speaks it, is the final line of dialogue should repeat the very first line of dialogue that you write. Okay, so it forms like a little scene if you try this. All right, I know that's a lot to digest, but there's the slide. See if you can play with this and see what happens. See if you can follow these rules and see if you can make this happen. If you do it, if you trust this prompt, it really comes out to be a fun, conflict-laden scene without a lot of screaming and shouting. So good luck. Try this. We'll see what happens. I'm a little nervous about this one because there's a lot to digest.
And you got 5 minutes. Keep it writing. Okay, Chloe, if you'd bring us back together as a group, and I'll let Rich start with this one.
I realized I was messaging Tracy as you were writing. This is a kind of a complicated one to just process in 5 minutes. So Tracy, if you're willing to just to model the pattern, maybe we can show you the pattern real quick in case this didn't make sense. So Tracy, you just ask me any question you want. Just ask me a question.
Are we gonna watch a thunderstorm tonight?
Are we gonna watch a thunderstorm tonight?
I mean, you and I. Are we gonna watch one or not?
Are we gonna watch one?
Well, watch is hard to say. I mean, are we gonna hide under the covers, or are we gonna go outside and see what happens?
Are we gonna watch a thunderstorm tonight? So, okay, that was a silly example, and we're being playful. But the idea is, it creates this sort of tension and confusion. So that's kind of what the ideal setup for this is. It's okay if this didn't make sense. When I teach this, I teach it first, and then I kind of give you the chance to write. So if it's okay if it's confusing, but the idea is you're not answering a question directly. You're deflecting and dodging and repeating and doing that. So if this didn't make sense, maybe you could look at this later on and try it. But would anyone like to be brave and volunteer to see if you created this little seed? Oh, Jean, go ahead, please. Jean, I see you waving frantically. So
unmute, Jean. Thank you.
Okay. We can't let her do this. Yeah, sure. What can we do? Come on, they're going to wonder where we are. She's got her coat on. She's going to the cops. She's an adult, for Christ's sake. You can't lock her in a room or tie her up. Are you insane? She knows what we did. We can't let her rat us out. Are you ready to get locked up? I'm not. We can't let her do this.
Great. That was great. And now I'm so curious about what's going on, right?
I know. I want to know. You did. It does create that mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Phyllis's hand go up. Thank you, Jean. And again, anyone else, make sure to just put your reaction at the hands up. We'll try and find you. But yes, Phyllis, please unmute. Thank you.
Yes. You push the down button, right? Your tuxedo looks too big on you, dude. Push it harder, okay? Push it harder. Please don't mess with me. I'm not going to be late for my own wedding. Maybe if you cinch your belt or something, your trousers cover your shoes, man. Let me try. Move. Silence. Why are you covering the panel? Look, she's perfect, but she's not for you. You push the down button, right?
That was wonderful. Yeah. And now there's this whole story world off of a 30-second elevator ride. That's great. Nicely done. Laura, I see Laura has her hand raised. I saw a note. And
we'll do Barbara. We'll do Barbara after Laura. So Laura, please unmute.
Okay. I hate this conference room. I changed my mind. We should leave. We should stay. We should stay? Yes, I can't face Dan now. Well, you're going to. You started this. I changed my mind. Silence. Did you hear me? We should stay with the company. Did you hear Joanne? I'm so tired of her attitude. She's supposed to be our assistant. I changed my mind. Let's stay. We're not staying. Listen to me. You started this rodeo. Now we're going to write it out. We are changing companies. You just do what you want to do, don't you? You're the one who started this. I changed my mind. Silence. Let's leave. Dan's coming. It's too late. I changed my mind. We should stay.
So that's great. You worked the Anaphora structure in too, which is terrific, right? And so, of course, we're wondering what the hell was she thinking in the first place? What did she change her mind about? Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing, Laura. I saw there was someone, and Tracy, maybe I'm Barbara.
Barbara Allen, if she'd unmute, and then anyone else, just put the hands up and we'll keep looking for you. So Barbara, welcome, please share.
Hi. You want to drive, Eli? Yeah, can I? Let me see here, Eli. Didn't you just wreck your mom's car the last time you went out driving? Yeah, but can I? Eli, you don't even have your license yet. And besides, your dad grounded you from driving for a month. But the month's almost up. And besides, it's your car. And if you don't tell Dad, how will he know? Because I'll have to tell him. Come on, Desi, can I drive?
You're all doing great with this in a very short amount of time. You know, we're opening these little scenes. That was terrific.
Thank you.
I'm gonna call on Tanya because she hasn't shared, and I know she's shy that way. So I'm just I'm pulling the friend rule. I'm pulling the friend rule and just calling on you. Look out, people.
Okay, here we go. Come to the car with me now. Can't you hear that snuffling? I'd rather get run through by a wild pig on the way to the car than sit here and listen to them circle us. If you stop talking, they'll go away. Come to the car with me now. Come to the car with you now? We'll die. Come to the car with me now. Tell me why you left him. Why I left him? You want to hear about my divorce? I want to hear about your divorce. Come to the car with me and I'll tell you about the divorce.
That's great. That was great.
I think these worked out better than you had planned.
Yeah, I was worried. You guys are doing great. This is great. It's hard to do it in 5 minutes. There's so much, normally there's so much thinking involved, right, that we're not writing. So you all have done this, all three of these prompts so far. You've just let the writing do it for you, which is great.
We have time for 1 or 2 more shares before we do our last prompt for the evening. Anyone else that hasn't shared that would like to? I'm going to call on somebody. I think I'm going to call on Valerie. And you don't have to share it all if you don't want to, but yeah, please feel free. We're no judgments at all.
Okay. I was having trouble unmuting it. Let's make some cookies. Cookies. Chocolate chip. Cookies. Can we make some chocolate chip cookies? I'm really hungry for Jell-O salad. We're going to have Jell-O salad for dinner. Silence. We can make cookies now and fix the salad later. I need to go to the store first. It's as far as I got.
Rich, it's like they're unintentionally funny in a way.
And that's what happens. And you know, I was thinking of the screenwriter David Mamet is so good at dialogue, and he does this in his plays. You'll hear this weird loopy repetition and sideways language, and so again, it's an exercise to play with as you write dialogue or when you're reading dialogue and stories, to look at examples of how I did this in the class this morning. I was teaching how often dialogue repeats and loops around and does this kind of weird, you know, people think it's like supposed to be natural speech. Dialogue is not natural speech. It's distilled story language with a cause and an effect purpose in the story. And so when you see dialogue doing these weird, it really makes the reader more interested, as opposed to, hi, honey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? No, I don't want to hear that. You know, I want it to be a little strange.
Okay, do we have anyone else that wants to? Otherwise, we've got this one last. I'm just looking. Did I miss anybody, Rich, that wanted to share?
I read this that says Anna's hand was raised, so I want to make sure if she wants to, she can go, or we can move on.
I think it was raised for another prompt. I think we're
that could have been an old text. I just was reading what was okay.
To wrap up. So we're just going to
Sure.
do this last prompt. We might not have time to share, but this one there's no slide for. Rich and I are going to go back and forth on it. Okay, so it's kind of a rapid fire one, and this is the one that I was kind of most excited for. So Rich and I are going to give you a direction to start this guided writing prompt, and then every minute we're going to add a complication that you need to address. So Rich, why don't you set them up?
So the idea of this is to get out of your head a little bit. So we're going to get you going, and then what we'll do is you just keep writing. Don't look up. You keep writing, and then when we interrupt, we're going to add something in, and then you keep writing whatever we say to add in. You kind of follow that for a little while, and you come back to the ongoing problem. So you're going to start with characters with an ongoing problem. It can be a single character. It can be multiple characters. It can be nonfiction or fiction. You just have to chase. This is like chase our prompts. Okay, so just get relaxed, take a deep breath. There's no pressure. Write whatever you want. You just start wherever you want, ideally with a character or someone you know fairly well, and you just get going. And whatever you get going on, that's your return line. And then we're going to come in and offer you some thoughts Tracy said every minute or so, we're going to come in and offer you something to think about, and just chase that for a little while and come back to it, and then see where we come next. Right. So it's kind of a prompt interruption prompt.
Yes. So put them
So
in.
just get relaxed, take a deep breath.
Yeah. Put that character in a specific place, like a diner, a table, the Times Square, and think of a specific problem. And then it helps if there's two characters, and we're going to add them prompts as they start. But right now, start with the specific problem and the location and start writing.
Do we pick the location or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Missed that part.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to describe the weather and then get back to the specific problem in your characters.
Describe one article of clothing your character is wearing, and then get back to your problem.
Okay, an animal has entered your scene. Address it and get back to the problem.
Have your character remember a grandparent and just briefly mention the grandparent in a memory.
That's your last one. Final minute. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for participating. I'm sorry you don't have time to share because I'd love to hear what you guys did with this prompt. I hope it was a fun one. Rich, last thoughts before we turn it back over to Marnie and Jennifer?
Yeah, thanks all. This was great. I was very impressed with everything you were able to do on such a short, kind of rapid fire notice. So hopefully it gives you just some jumping off points for your writing and to continue into the Writers Festival this weekend to get some writing done too. So thank you all for participating and being such good sports.
The way you shared was just really brave, and it was awesome. And I heard the beginning of some books in there. I was like, start that book. Really innovative prompts too. Rich and Tracy, you know, it's hard to do a prompt session and make it unique and innovative. And I was like, what? That's what? So it was really wonderful. And I just love the sense of community, you know, bringing us all together like this at the end of the festival. You guys did a fantastic job. Thank you so much to everyone that participated.
Amazing.
And don't forget to visit San Diego Writers Inc., the sponsor of this event. Lots of programs, lots of groups and events and free community-based events. So, so head on over to sandiegowriters.org and check them out.
Great teacher.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great writers. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rich and Tracy, and everyone.
Thanks, Marnie. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, everyone, too.
Thank you
all.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
Thank you. We didn't get our lightning, darn it.
It's going on. It's crackling and bubbling. I hear frogs out there.
I didn't hear it. Well, that was beautiful. It is so wonderful to see our community come together, to hear the bravery. So many people really went there, and this is being broadcast live, so it's a pretty cool thing. I think it gives other people courage, right?
Also, I like that it was recorded because they were such intricate prompts that you can go back and.
I'm gonna go back. I want to do it.
Yeah. Rich, you should write a prompt book, man.
A prompt book.
Good stuff there.
Yeah.
No, they were great. It was
PromptFest in a book.
Tracy kept me on task because I would have been all over the place with this. So
Tracy's awesome.
Tracy's good. She's good like that.
Great. I'm gonna log off, you guys.
Thanks,
you,
Tracy. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Great
Bye,
job.
Tracy.
Thanks, Marnie. Thanks, Jennifer.
Bye, Rich. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.